answer Sandeep Vishlesh. So before going to discuss the shoulder dislocation, we must know a little about the anatomy of the shoulder joint. So the brief anatomy includes that means the most important structure of this shoulder joint is the one more the glenoid cavity present in the scapula, and the humeral head which is connected to the so this glenohumeral joint and other joint are acromioclavicular joints, which are important joints in the shoulder joint. And the next important structure is called the rotatory cuff. You may listen many times that rupture of rotatory cuff, the tearing of rotatory cuff. So rotatory cuff is not a single structure, but this is the compound structure made of the different muscles, different tendons, who cover that shoulder joint and maintain the humeral head inside the glenoid cavity. That is called the rotatory cuff. So the rotatory cuff includes these muscles like subscapularis, suprascapularis, teres major, teres minor muscles. So these muscles which cover the shoulder joint attached to the humeral head. So these are jointly called the rotatory cuff. Along with the very important muscles, that is deltoid muscles, which give strength to the shoulder joint and maintain shoulder joint and prevent the dislocation. So these important structures are the rotatory cuff, deltoid muscles, and glenohumeral joint are the important structure in the bone. If we say that scapula having the glenoid cavity and the femoral head, the head of the humerus, these are the two important structures in the shoulder joint. So if we say that this shoulder joint, so this is the most unstable joint in the human body. That's why the most commonly dislocated joint is the shoulder joint. Most commonly occurs in the adults and very rarely the children due to the laxity of the muscles. That's why in the children the weight is very less in children. That's why the dislocation of shoulder joint is very less in children, while in the more common in the adults, because the adults are receiving this different type of the traumas. So the type of the shoulder joint according to the dislocations, the degree of dislocations, and the different positions of the dislocations, which is basically classifies the anterior dislocations, posterior dislocation, and laxatio erectica. So anterior dislocation is there when the humerus is dislocated anterior to the scapula, is this acromio-humeral capsule joint. When the scapula is pushed, so when the humerus head is pushed forward, so that anterior on the basis of the degree of dislocation, we can say it's preglenoid, subcoracoid, and subclavicular. You can see in the picture A, B, C. A means this is when the little bit on the force is less, but it is able to dislocate the humerus. Then it is preglenoid, means just before the glenoid cavity. It is means the humeral head leaves the glenoid cavity, but just in front of the glenoid cavity. So it is called preglenoid. Then when it's when further dislocate and the force is little more than the previous one, then it comes below the coracoid process, then this is called the subcoracoid. And if more dislocated, then it's just below the clavicle, this is called the subclavicle. So these all are the 3 degrees of the anterior dislocations: preglenoid, subcoracoid, and subclavicular. While the posterior dislocation is there when the humerus is dislocated posteriorly to this glenohumeral joint. It mostly occurs due to the huge blow over the shoulder from anterior side, so that the humerus is pushed back to the posterior side, posterior to this glenoid cavity. That is called the posterior dislocation. It is less common. Anterior dislocation is more common than the posterior dislocation. Laxatio erectica, this is the rare condition when the complete dislocation is not there, but just due to relaxation of the muscles are laxed, and that's called the laxatio erectica, means the muscles are so laxed, the rotatory muscles of the rotatory cuff are so laxed, so that the humeral head is just lies in the subglenoid positions, just below the, not pre. And you understand the difference between preglenoid and subglenoid. Preglenoid when the anterior to the glenoid, and the subglenoid is just below the glenoid, due to the muscles are of the rotatory cuff become lax or relaxed. How you diagnose that shoulder dislocations? So usually the gait of the patient, means the position of the patient when the is the situation in which the patient comes to, the presenting complaint of the patient is very much important. Usually the patient comes with a history of history in the anterior dislocation. The patient has typical history of the fall with the outstretched hand. The shoulder is abducted and externally rotated, and in that situation, patient comes to that enter the hospital with his holding his elbow with the other hand, and the shoulder is abducted and externally rotated, and sometimes you can see the patient having severe pain and unable to move his shoulder joint, and he supporting his hand, affected hand, by the other healthy hand. In the posterior dislocation, the patient usually comes in this similar position, but patients have the history of a huge blow from the anterior side. Patient will say that he has a huge blow or some pushback from the anterior side of the humerus. So the usually this presentation is enough, and after that you can do some examinations that of the shoulder joint, that will clearly make your diagnosis that it is the shoulder dislocation. That is the Hamilton rule test, Dugas test, and Kalbach test. Hamilton ruler test, nothing, just simply you take a rule or the say you can take a simple stick. So usually when we keep a stick of a straight stick or a straight rule in the lateral side of the shoulder joint, so you can not touch the this claviculoaccular joint as the lateral tubercle of that humerus. You cannot touch these 2 points simultaneously. But if lateral condyle of the humerus, and as well as the lateral side of the shoulder joint. So in normal patients, when you place a rule in the lateral side of the hand of the arm, so the rule will not touch both lateral condyle of the humerus as well as this shoulder joint simultaneously. But if the shoulder is dislocated, so in that case this Hamilton rule test positive, and your rule can test your ruler can touch both the shoulder, this claviculoaccular joint, as well as this lateral condyle of the humerus simultaneously, because in between the muscles of this normal contour of the shoulder muscles is lost. You can see in the picture here it is flat, and here this is the shoulder muscles, the contour, this curve of the shoulder muscles. Next test, the Dugas test. Dugas is a very simple test. Just ask the patient to touch the opposite side of the shoulder with his hand. Patient will not able to touch. Suppose if this shoulder is dislocated and you ask me to touch this shoulder by this hand, this right hand. So means the opposite, just ask the patient to touch the opposite side of the shoulder. So I will not able to touch this shoulder. That is the clearly mentioned that patient may have this shoulder dislocation. Next, the Kalbach test. Kalbach test is nothing, just when you measure the axilla, when you measure the circumference, the vertical circumference of the axilla of that patient, so usually the affected side of axilla becomes increase. The size of the vertical size of the axilla become increase in the affected side more than the normal side. So because of this, humerus is it comes to the anterior side and dislocated and below, so that it increase the vertical circumference of the axilla. So these are the simple test examinations. You can find out that it is the dislocations. To confirm the diagnosis, and you can order some x-rays. So usually the AP view of the x-rays are required to see this disorders. You can see in the picture here that in this picture the humerus head is lies in front of this glenoid cavity. You can see the glenoid cavity. So this is the clear case of the anterior shoulder dislocations, where you can see this is the humerus is head and it is dislocated posteriorly, and this is the glenoid. You can see the anterior border of the glenoid cavity and always the posterior border of the glenoid cavity. So this is the case of the posterior dislocation. So by the ordering this x-ray, so better you order both view AP as well as lateral, so you can easily diagnose the anterior as well as the posterior dislocation of the shoulder joint. Now comes the treatment. So if you have the patient of the shoulder dislocation, you must have to reduce as early as possible, and the close reduction is possible in the patient under the sedation or the general anesthesia. Some manipulations are required to do. There is some techniques for the close manipulations. For the shoulder dislocations are the Kocher's maneuver or the Hippocrates maneuver. These maneuvers are used to reduce the shoulder joint as early as possible and then immobilize the shoulder joint in the arm chest position. Means first reduce the shoulder joint when the humerus comes in the glenoid cavity, and you can fix that in this arm chest position. You can fix this. You have to fix this. Suppose this shoulder is dislocated. So after the reduction, you have to fix the shoulder. This shoulder along with my hand like this. In the arm pouch or some other anyhow method. So in this position, so that it remain here and it improve the healing. And after the healing, after the 3B, you can remove that bandage at immobilization and ask the patient to mobilize his arm or shoulder, so that get early movement, early mobilizations, and that reduces the stiffness, and rehabilitation process become easier. So for that, you can take the help of the physiotherapy. Also, you can send your patient to the physiotherapist for that exercise and the treatment, so the patient get early movement and reduce the stiffness, and post-operative traumatic these complications are reduces. So these are the two maneuver, Kocher's maneuver and the Hippocrates maneuvers. So we discuss one by one. Kocher's maneuvers is the simplest one. So many others maneuvers are also there. So I am not going to discuss here so many things. Just only to discuss this Kocher's maneuver as well as Hippocrates maneuver. Kocher's maneuver is there. There are 3 easy steps to reduce this anterior dislocations. First step is the traction and external rotations. Means you have to give the traction in the longitudinal directions, give the traction to the shoulder joint of that affected hand in the line of the body, and simultaneously the traction as well as the external rotation, as you can see in the picture. Traction and external rotation. And your second is step to the adduction. Means you have to adduct the shoulder so that this humerus head comes in the line of this glenoid cavity. And then third step is the internal rotation, so that patient, the hand of the patient should go on the opposite side of the shoulder of that patient. These are the 3 steps of that Kocher's maneuver to fix this, to reduce this anterior dislocation: traction and external rotations, second adduction, and third internal rotations. In the Hippocratic maneuver is there when the surgeons usually keep the continuous steady full traction in the semi-abducted positions, and surgeon should keep his foot inside the axilla, and against axilla he pushed the humerus, so that against the chest wall. So his leg of the surgeon used as the fulcrum, the point where against which surgeon is pulling, giving traction as well as the adduction. In that condition, this humerus head comes into line of this glenoid cavity and fix into that relocate in the humerus glenoid cavity, and this shoulder is reduced. So how to check the shoulder reduced? Just ask the patient to touch the opposite shoulder. If the patient is able to touch the opposite shoulder, it means shoulder is reduced and there is now no dislocations. Then you have to fix that dislocated shoulder, reduced shoulder in that arm chest position for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And after that, you can remove that bandage and ask the patient to mobilize. There are a few complications which occurs in the shoulder, this anterior shoulder dislocations. So the early complication is usually the injury to the axillary nerve is more common occurs. So if the patient's axillary nerve is injured, so then in that condition patient may just have suffered some paresthesia, anesthesia over the this shoulder area, and patient will not able to adduct his shoulder. Patient will not able to do this movement. Abduction is not possible. So that because of the paralysis of this muscles that called the deltoid muscles that usually supplied by the axillary nerve. So if axillary nerve is damaged, so deltoid muscles usually paralyze. So if deltoid muscle is paralyzed, so patient will not able to abduct his shoulder, and you can easily identify that the patient may have some axillary nerve injuries. The later complications, the most common later complications is that recurrent dislocations. Means patient getting dislocated his or her shoulder again and again with a minimal trivial trauma. So in that condition, so to that some other regions may be there for this recurrent dislocation, just like patient is epileptic and means due to the epileptic episodes, patients fall usually and having the dislocations, as well as patient having some inadequate treatment in the first dislocation conditions, and due to the improper treatment, patient due to the improper treatment, patient will not able to fix that shoulder properly, so that it get dislocated again and again. So what are the treatment for this? That the answer is the reconstructive surgery. Means you have to reconstruct this rotatory cuff. Usually the rotatory cuff is damaged, and that is main cause of this shoulder dislocation. So you have to do some procedure to reconstruct this this rotatory cuff and this shoulder joint. So these include the 3 major operations: T-plat operations, Bankart operations, and Bristow operations. So in short, we can say this putty plant operation is just double breasting of the subscapularis muscles. Bankart operation is nothing, just the fixing of the anterior glenoid capsule, so that it reduces the chance of again dislocations. And this Bristow operation is the this operation is of the coracoid process. So with the reattachment means you have to just reattach these muscles and the teared muscles of the rotatory cuff. So that is the reconstructive part. So just go the detail in these procedures. Just the name of enough. Just remember the name. That is enough for this UG level. So these are the procedure to reconstruct the surgery. So here we finish this shoulder joint also.